Bonjour, je suis Notman Lee, et ici le voyage d'espace JNSQ. We have made it! We have actually made it to Laythe, the first moon of Jool. It's about 2,200 kilometers across, only about a quarter of the mass of Kerbin, but surface gravity is about 0.6 Gs and atmosphere is about 0.6 atmospheres as well. One day is about 32 hours, it is tidally locked with Jool, and a very, very light inclination, making those gravity assists and approaches very easy. We're going to use Delta V baselines to the other moons from here, but ascending from Laythe takes about 3.3 kilometers per second, and you can land on heat shields and parachutes. Laythe is the big tourist stop in stock, and so it is here in JNSQ. Instead of Tylo, you use Laythe for your gravity assists. There are lots and lots of biomes, and air-breathing craft will work on this world. But this is not the Laythe you know. Ground scatter will make landfall very difficult, as you will soon see. And there's actually a possible heat hazard underwater that you will get to see near the end of this episode. When we last left our craft in polar orbit above Jool, we were getting ready for our approach to Laythe after we had done our experiments in Jool's atmosphere. This is the rover pain train where we're going to bring down our rovers here. We're going to bring down the Laythe rover. At the same time, we're going to do one more really close pass of Jool for the beauty shots. Look at that. Not bad. Anyway, now that the pain train is on its way, we're going to send the main mission craft down to Laythe as well. Again, with those Medusa nuclear pulse engines, we have Delta V for weeks. Although we are actually using up quite a few of our bombs there. Look at that. We'll be using up a lot more as we maneuver from moon to moon. Fortunately, we also have those precision thrusters for little changes like this one here. There we go. That's about as close as we're going to be able to get to Laythe. And then we'll be able to close our orbit pretty easily once we get down there. And there we go. I am trying to use all of the probe cores to look for surface anomalies on Laythe, and I still don't have any luck, but that's okay. I have a cunning plan for finding our surface anomalies. There has to be at least one out there. Come on, there we go. So before the main mission craft gets out here, we're going to send down the Laythe rover and hopefully cut down on the amount of parts on these crafts so that we can save this poor computer's frame rate. There we go. To help with the descent, we're going to make use of the RCS thrusters there. We've got some Werner liquid fuel RCS thrusters on there. That should help keep this thing pointing straight on the descent. Fortunately, we don't lose signal on the descent, but I still don't take any chances. I make sure that we can do this. Okay, there we go. So first things first, we deorbit this craft. I pick about 35 kilometers. Because of that 10-meter heat shield, it should deorbit pretty quickly. Alrighty, come on there. There we go. Now we can detach that docking port and we can inflate the heat shield. And there we go. This ended up being a pretty easy descent. I was worried about losing signal, but having those relay satellites really close helped keep our signal strength up. So this ended up being a really easy descent for this probe. I was expecting a lot worse. Look at that background shot of Jool. Beautiful. Yeah, we start losing signal, so I get ready to turn SAS off, but then it stabilizes at about 64% and it stays there. Which is good. I didn't have to worry about turning SAS off or having this re-entry craft possibly flip out. Interesting that it took one of the outer relays, one of the JX2 antennas. I wonder if the signal modifiers even apply to those massive antennas on those craft. I quickly get some high space science because this is the only chance I'm going to be able to get that. Look at that. And there we go, we're back up to full signal, not a problem. I try to orient this craft to detach the heat shield and to detach that service module there. I end up giving up because I couldn't hold it radial out really. That heat shield was acting too much as a drogue chute. I end up just taking my chance right about here. There we go. Uh-oh. Oh my god. Oh boy. I was a little worried about that. Fortunately, this collision did not break any parts. Whew, my goodness. So, pretty easy. We're already slow enough to deploy the chutes. The atmosphere is not thick enough yet. I've got these chutes set to the stock setting of 0.04 atmospheres, so they won't inflate until they get pretty low. There we go. Try to get some lower atmosphere science while we can. Not going to be able to use those other instruments, but that's okay. I managed to get 2 copies of a few things. I got a little problem though. I'm looking at this and it says the biome is the shores, and then it says jewel word sea. And I'm like, wait a minute, where's the water? If this is the jewel word sea, where's the water on the surface? I bring up CurbNet on this probe core here. Won't be able to find any anomalies, but that's okay, and I check, yeah, we're supposed to be over water if this is to be believed. So, what's going on here? Yep, water. Well, where's the water? Oh well, we'll worry about that when we get down there. Yeah, slowly dropping, not a problem. There's one of the pieces, probably the service module, not a problem. Then whoops, sorry about that. That was a bit of a spoiler there. I ended up saving and reloading this particular save. That redrew the water. That was Scatterer giving us some problems there. Oh well. Splashdown! Now this particular splashdown gave us a little trouble. It was nothing like the Explodium Seas on Eve. No, no, no. But hey, we still managed to get this thing stabilized, and we managed to power it up to the shore, where we can let Bon Voyage meet up with the landing craft once we get it out there. You can't see it too well in the dark, but you can see those obelisks coming out of the ground. Look at that. We do manage to get this thing on landfall though, there we go. We are going to be doing a lot of ocean traveling. In the meantime, our brave heroes, Doug, Bob, and Valentina Kerman are on their way to Laythe. There we go. And I am still trying to look for anomalies. I've got that rove mate there, and I'm just not having any luck finding anything on the surface, even from this distance. Oh well. Once we get these guys on their way down to the surface, we'll execute our cunning plan to locate our objects on the surface of Laythe. And there we go. My poor computer was just struggling with so many parts on this poor craft. Hopefully when we get the Laythe lander down there, we'll get our part count down. There we go. There's the rover. I ended up driving it out that way. Okay. Now that we're all settled out here, we're going to put Bob and Doug in the cockpit of that Laythe lander. That is a single-stage to orbit craft for the use on Laythe. We've got a little service module attached here that was first used for docking this thing to the pain train. Come on, where is it? Oh, let's get back there. There we go. Now I don't have to worry about Doug's lack of piloting skills because we have a fly-by-wire hub on the nose cone of this craft. So we've got full SAS here. We also have a Octo 2 probe core. Now I have practiced this, and this is a fully fueled craft, so the mass of this thing would have normally given us some problems, but it actually was pretty stable in the upper atmosphere. There we go. Now, if you've ever seen me pilot something called the Fat Star McTater Tot, You may have seen me dip down like this to try to decrease our vertical speed and then climb and then point back up to reduce our horizontal speed, and going back and forth until this thing settles out on re-entry. Otherwise the re-entry would have taken considerably longer if I'd have skipped off the atmosphere and bounced up and then fallen back down and then so forth. Look at that gorgeous shot of Jewel over the horizon. There we go, back and forth again. Got a quick crew report from the upper atmosphere, always a good idea. I was not going to take any chances by doing an EVA report. No way. I do not want to risk these guys' lives at this point. Up and down, up and down, up and down. But we're down to much more reasonable re-entry speeds. It says Mach 7. That's because the air is so much thinner up here on Laythe. I'm actually amazed with how stock Kerbal-like this Laythe is when it comes to spaceplanes. When I was testing this particular craft, I was able to use all the know-how that I had from the stock game. Look at that. With Doug being in firm command of this craft, now all we gotta do is bleed off some speed and get down to the lower atmosphere. These guys are going to make it down, at least to the lower atmosphere, nice and safe. Now we gotta worry about landing. Okay, we're not too far from the lander, a mere 125 kilometers. Easy glide. I did find that it had a bit of a side slip problem, at least in the higher altitudes. Once we got a little lower it was better, but it still had a bit of a side slip problem, probably because of all the massive fuel to the rear of this craft. This is a fully fueled craft. I only have a little bit of jet fuel in the wet wings because that's all I needed. But all of the rocket fuel fuselages are right full up, and that made this thing quite maneuverable, but also very, very twitchy. I extend the landing gear to try to loose up, to try to bleed off some speed. Get a little bit of drag in there going. There's the rover over there, that's our target. In my tests I found that I had to get my ground speed down to about 160 meters per second, and then it was okay, the drogue chutes would take care of the rest. Here I am, desperately bleeding off speed. Oh boy, there we go. Okay, we're under 160. Thank goodness for that. Okay. We'll deploy those drogues once we get nice and close to the ground. Flaps would have done me no good here at all. I just was too heavy. Come on, Doug, you can do this. Got a bit of a slight slip problem there. Be careful. Here come the drogues. Come on, come on, come on. Touchdown and slow down, negative flaps, get those negative flaps going. Oh, thank goodness for that. We have touched down on the surface of JNSQ Laythe. This particular sand spit was a nice landing strip over here. Take a good close look when we zoom back out to the map view, and you will know where this little spit is. It's also on one of the largest land masses on Laythe, so if you don't want to hit those obelisks, this is a good place for your space planes. Ah, thank goodness. Turn those noisemakers off. Alright, and it is Bob's honor to plant the flag. Although, this is not the flag. This is going to be a rover target. There we go. Not a problem. Still, this is a monumentous achievement for our brave Kerbals, Bob and Doug Kerman. By the way, I do know about Bob and Doug heading up to the International Space Station. Hope they have fun with the Canadarm2, and I open a lot of beers with it. Okay, so while we're waiting for the rover to get to there, we're sending Valentina up to a really high orbit, and then we're going to change that to a polar orbit to get a good look at the rest of Laythe. With the rover safely arrived, it's now up to Doug Kerman to inspect it, make sure no wheels are busted, and fix them if they are, and also get that flag out of there. Well, there we go. Since we're all set, there we go, we can get Bob out. Come on down, Bob. Those ladders in that spot worked out really well. Okay, reset those instruments, do some science. We've seen all this before, so I'm not going to dwell on all the science. We do find a Laythe boulder nearby, though, so we'll get some good scans of that. I moved the scanning arm to the side of the craft to try to work around the problems we've been having. Look at that, 630 science! It did say it was a good place to nap here, and Doug here is all about napping, so hey, let's see. Gotta say, I could think of a more comfortable sleeping position there, Doug. Oh well. Anyway, we send out Bob here. We're gonna try to get some... Oh, wait a minute, I remember this now. There was some Laythe stone around the corner there. That's right, so we send out Bob here with a pickaxe. He's gonna go pick up some of this. And yes, these guys can walk around without their helmets. Laythe does have an oxygen atmosphere, even if it is only about 10%. Good enough for the Juno jets on this rover, and good enough for Bob's lungs. Oh yeah. You know, those rocks don't look like anything I've seen back on Kerbin. They look more like those salt stones I've seen before. Anyway, time to get this thing out into the water. We'll get some splashdown science. Splashdown and landed actually act as two different biomes when they're in the same biome. So hey, be sure to get splashdown science and landed science from these shorelines. Look at that. Now I had temperature thermometers up here at one point, and I was amazed at just how warm it got out here. It was about 14°C over here on the equator. Oceans are usually not that warm on Earth, let me tell you about that. Okay, now we go up to the Highlands and we've got one of the stock geysers from the Breaking Ground DLC. Those are in plentiful supply here on Laythe. In my initial tests I had problems scanning these things, but that's why I moved the scanner arm to the side there. It took a lot of rebalancing of this craft to get that scanning arm to work right. Come on, there we go. 840 science, and yeah, that could be a good source of that terrible smell. There's probably bits of sulfur in the air. Okay, look at all those. We have hardly moved very far and we got so much science already. There we go. Look at that temperature. Just a little high up and already it's getting much colder. It's close to -1°C over there. We have an opportunity to get some EVA reports flying over the surface of Laythe with the help of this geyser here. So we've got that parachute already. Hopefully this thing's gonna blow Bob up into the air and he'll be able to drop back down safe. At least that's the plan. The plan and what actually happened are very often two different things. Whoops, that didn't quite work out. Oh well. We'll try redeploying. But then the geyser goes, oh boy. Ow. Fortunately, we still get that EVA report flying. Yeah, good thing you had your helmet on there, Bob. Anyway, while they were having fun on the surface, Valentina was putting this craft into a really high polar orbit. We're gonna try another attempt at finding those anomalies, if we have any, on the surface of Laythe. We managed to pass over the North Pole, and while we found some ways there, we couldn't find anything. But here, on the South Pole, we finally found something. That is the South Ice Caps, and I zoom in as closely as I can. Come on. There we go, Valentina. Good job finding that. She also places some markers down for our brave surface crew to be able to get out here. Here's a gorgeous Laythe sunrise, right near the shoreline as well. Now, I've said that Bon Voyage has had problem calculating the fuel efficiency of engines, so what we're going to do is we're going to measure whatever the fuel economy is we're actually getting in real time. In this case, I get about, not a bad fuel economy for what it is, about the same as a 2005 Ford Escape. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn on infinite fuel, we'll sail up to the target, we'll take note of the distance, and then we will deduct the appropriate amount of fuel from the save. So we're not going to cheat, but at the same time we're not going to let Bon Voyage rob us of the ability of getting out to farther places on the oceans of Laythe. There we go. Off we go. Now out at our destination it's already dark, and look at that jewel. Oh my goodness. That jewel of a world known as Jewel. I do deduct the appropriate amount of fuel from there, and then we make landfall. And there we go. We're finally on the southern ice cap, and we actually finally made it to the anomaly. It was so hard to find it compared to all those obelisks all around. You know, hey Galileo team, why are the southern ice caps as gray as the rest of Laythe? I know it can be pretty toasty out there with all the volcanic activity, but shouldn't the ice caps be a little colder? Look at that. At least we know the obelisks are much taller now than the random monoliths. I thought I was seeing things there for a moment, and I'm like, nope, that's the monolith. We plant it with a flag so we can at least show where it was. And there we go. And we still have the edge of the disk of Jewel in the distance. Yes, Laythe Randolith. And we did pick up artificial intelligence in our tech tree. Good job. More beautiful shots from the South Pole. There's the sun, and there's the disk of Jewel. Now, there's that spoiler that I missed. At least from here I can show you fairly what we're seeing down there. We're seeing small craters created by underwater volcanoes. Not bad at all. That is the big reason why the water is so warm here, and these are all along the sea bottoms of all the ocean biomes on Laythe. After many days of driving around, we approach the lander and we get all the science loaded back up. Doug is probably back just to be out, or happy to be back on his feet. There we go. We'll turn the helmet on so that we can at least turn the light on and see what the heck we're doing. There we go, experiment storage unit. And the rest of the science goes in the cockpit. Oh, we did have a couple of extra reports we didn't need to keep. Okay. Come on, Bob. Where are you? There we go. Oh, there we go. Doug got all the science. So, Bob just has one more task to do, and that is to plant the real flag. There we go, in the bright lights of our rover. I don't think we're on Kerbin anymore, eh? We wait for the main mission craft to get overhead, and then we start our takeoff. If I can get off the ground, I can manage the rest of this trip. Got plenty of rocket Delta V for getting into orbit. Come on. Hopefully we don't hit any bumps here in the dark. Come on. Oh, and at 100 meters per second we get enough lift that we can take off. There we go. Now it's just a matter of getting on that 90-degree vector there and then accelerating up to orbit. Flying a space plane on Laythe is very much like flying a space plane on stock Kerbin. In fact, it is easier because of the lower gravity. There we go. Only problem is you gotta be careful to start leveling off a lot sooner than what I did here. The atmosphere still gets pretty thin up here. There we go. Come on, level off. We need to accelerate on those jets as best as we can. I was wondering, where's the sun? I was hoping to get a good sunrise during this takeoff. In my earlier tests, I had a lot more horizontal speed, but I decided, you know what? Let's just get going. So we fire the one arrow spike there. That gives us more than enough thrust to weight with the assistance of those jets. And once we've burned off some rocket fuel, we'll be at a thrust to weight of just about 1, which is perfect. And there we go. And there's the sun. The rest of this ascent is very much like taking up a stock Kerbal spaceplane. Not a problem. We got Delta V for hours. Gotta be careful there. It's still just a single stage to orbit craft. It is not a single stage to anywhere else. I spent way too much time in the upper atmosphere here. I was a little worried I was going to overheat. Fortunately, that didn't happen, and Doug here was able to get us back up into low space. There we go. Time to apoapsis is climbing. Pretty soon we can cut those engines and we can coast our way up. And there we go. Apoapsis well above 75 kilometers there. There we go. There's our rendezvous over on the left there. There we go. Not bad at all. Correction burn, and we get these guys rendezvousing with the main mission craft. Not a problem. There we go. 0.1 kilometers. We'll take that. Now it's just a matter of the approach, unloading the science, bringing it back to the main mission craft, and then getting ready for our ejection out to Vol. What a beautiful craft. There we go. Doug gets aboard there, and then soon Bob will follow. There we go. Okay. Well, thanks for joining us out here at Laythe. We'll see you at the next episode when we head to Vol. Until then, I'm not Manly. Fly safe.